Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Note that everyone is present. So let's begin with a for a council resolution. Council agenda. Well, first we're going to have a reflection. Sorry. All right, we start with a moment of reflection and respect. Thank you. Now we'll move to item number 4, confirmation of the agenda. Have a motion.
That council adopts the agenda for the meeting of January 11th, 2023 as presented.
Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Desrosiers. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it's carried. Item 5, a declaration of pecuniary interest. Is there any? Move to items. There's no delegations or public meetings, right? Adoption of council and committee minutes, 7.1. We have a motion.
That council approves the following minutes. Regular meeting of council held on December 7th, 2022.
A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Van Raes, seconded by Councillor Chapman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Item 7.2, minutes to receive. Have a motion.
That council receives the following minutes. Meeting of Elgin County Council held on November 8th, 2022, and meeting of the Town of Elmer Police Services Board held on November 10th, 2022.
Motion moved by Councillor Oslak, seconded by Councillor Raleigh. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Item 8, consent agenda. Have a motion.
That items 7.1 and 7.2 of the January 11th, 2023 consent agenda be received for information.
I think that probably should be 8.1 and 8.2, right? But anyway, a motion, and a mover and a seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Barber, seconded by Councillor Chapman. Any discussion on consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is carried. Item 9, action items. First item, 9.1, we have a motion.
That report operations 123 entitled Elk Street Project Update be received for information.
Mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Oslak, seconded by Councillor Desrosiers. Okay, discussion? No discussion? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Your Worship, are we going to have a general overview of the project again, or are we just to the discussion point?
Who's that doing that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Deputy Mayor Barber, staff are prepared to provide an overview of the report at your will. So,
I would respectfully ask that we have an overview, Coles Notes version.
Okay. Did you want the overview at this point right now, or?
Yes, please.
Absolutely, and thank you, and through the mayor. The purpose of the report that's before council is to provide an update on the status of the Elk Street project. WT Infrastructure was originally hired to undertake the detailed design, which is currently at the 60% detailed design phase. The initial proposed cross-section of the roadway is designed to a collector road standard with complete streets philosophies in mind. The goal of complete streets is to provide safe, healthy, and vibrant communities as a whole by providing active transportation options to all residents. So the proposed cross-section or road layout consisted of 2 through lanes that were 3.5 meters wide, 2 1.5 meter bike lanes on either side of the road, and 2 concrete sidewalks on both sides of the road. Public Information Center was held for the project in August to give residents the opportunity to view the preliminary design and ask questions and voice any concerns relating to the project. Staff received several complaints or concerns about the proposed design, some of which were the removal of on-street parking, removal of various boulevard trees, the need for bike lanes, the need for sidewalks, and potential for traffic calming to combat speeding in the area, which included requested stop signs. Based on the feedback, staff thought it was prudent for a further analysis of the design. Staff contacted WT Infrastructure to further review and assess the various design options, including traffic design and various alternatives for the project. WT is working with Paradigm Transportation Solutions, who are leaders in the transportation field. They're going to complete a review and analysis of the design. They'll utilize existing traffic data that has been collected and provided by the town. So the town collected numerous data points for traffic. We forwarded those all to the consultant. There was traffic counts and radar speed data, 12-hour parking counts, collision data from the police, bicycle lane reports and plans, and then various alternate road layout options that were all given to the consultant to consider. This data will all be utilized for the analysis to provide recommended traffic calming options and typical roadway cross-sections and cost estimates for the project. These findings and recommendations will be presented back to council so that the design may be finalized. And once the design is finalized, we will have a shelf-ready project that we can apply for different grant funding and tender the project. On that note, that's my brief update on the project. I don't know if my colleague Rob would have anything further to add to it.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Conning. First of all, let me say that I'm happy to have Terry on the project. You'll notice we've transitioned this project over to Terry's stewardship. Several members of council have reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a great example for you. Go and look at one in St. Thomas. Come to find out, Terry's had some heavy involvement in those projects over there, so I think we're in good hands with his experience, bringing that to the town and working with our engineer. As Terry said, this one generated a lot of interest. There's a lot of conflicting priority on this project, so our goal is to give you the council as much of the information as we can. Council certainly doesn't have an easy job on this particular project. I think back to a recent one we did, the Davenport School. Certainly some of the changes that we did there were an inconvenience for the public, but we prioritized the offloading and unloading of children and students and the pickup. This project's got multiple priorities that council are gonna have to evaluate, and some of them are conflicting, so I don't envy council's role on this project. The one thing that Terry and I are really working on is we've had experience, the consultants had experience where even the best intended traffic calming gets put in with good intentions, lots of capital money gets spent, and then they're taken out about 2 years later. It's a lot of unintended consequences. So we're really happy that WT has engaged Paradigm. They're a specialist in the traffic calming and the students and the bike lanes. That's their area of expertise. It is a subset of engineering. So we're gonna take all the comments that we received, and any priorities council wishes to give us tonight, if they have some comments, take it back so we can come here with a well-prepared options for council. That's the goal tonight. You can see we did stop after the public engagement. It warranted stopping. I think it's really important that we get this project right. You know, I'd like to see us hold this project out as the example when other people look and say, well, look at Elmer, that one went really well. That's the goal for staff. So this is an update. We would have delivered this earlier, but it was in the middle of election season, so we wanted to wait till all that passed and then come forward with a project update for council.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. My concern, and I think it's shared by the majority of the people that responded to the public meeting, was that on a couple fronts. The project calls for sidewalks on both sides. I'd like to know, not now, but I'd like to know the rationale of why we're putting sidewalks on both sides, when historically, when we put new sidewalks down, in this particular case, it would be on the south side. Why do we need two? The second part is, there are quite a few driveways or homes on Elk Street that only have off-street parking for one car, or one and a bit. The elimination of on-street parking in its entirety does not seem to bode well with the community. Would it not be reasonable to have at least on-street parking on one side? And we'd still have room for the bike lanes, we'd still be able to do the other things and enhance the roadway as it needs it. It is a road that's that's deserving of some attention, but let's make it user-friendly within the community as well. So sidewalk on both sides, or sorry, sidewalk on one side, not on two, and on-street parking at least one side. Okay, the other issue on the bike lanes, let's see what the bike plan for the town is and how Elk Street bike path ties in with that route. Do we need bike lanes on both sides? If we do, let's do it. If it doesn't tie in, maybe it's a low-volume bike route, and one would be more than enough. Just questions I'd like to see in the final report.
Okay. Councillor Van Raes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the second what Deputy Mayor Barber is saying regarding the parking, I've going through this and based on feedback I've heard, I think the parking is an important part for the community. So something I'd like to look and see if we can keep that. But my question is, is there an opportunity to look at future public engagement regarding any changes made to the plan? Would that make sense to ask for more public feedback once we've made some changes, considering the amount of feedback we've received already?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor, we can look at having another public information center. I think we did the initial public information center to get the feedback. Now we're really taking all that feedback and doing another further analysis on it. So we're hoping that with this further report, we're looking at parking and sidewalks and doing the appropriate analysis on all of it, that we would be able to decide at that point and provide recommendations on a cross-section or road layout that everyone would be happy with. As Rob mentioned earlier, it is a roadway with conflicting interests, so I think we need to decide which interests will benefit the community the most.
Finding that balance.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Oslash?
Yes, because of road widening, I have several questions from residents regarding the encroachment of residential properties.
Rob?
Through your worship, if I understand the question correctly, is as we use more of the road allowance, I believe is the counselor's question, we could certainly fit everything into what we're asking. We could use the road allowance from property line to property line. I wonder though if on-street parking would be as important to people as we crouch up that driveway to use the space. They might say, whoa, I didn't want on-street if it impacted the parking I already have. We're trying to keep it as tight as we can to lessen the impact on people, but we have lots of road allowance out there. By the time you fit everything in, the trees, the sidewalk, we're doing a best fit alignment on the sidewalk to lessen the impact on any trees. We're not trying to take down trees that aren't needed for sure. If that answers the counselor's question?
Well, I had a question from a resident. You can confiscate any resident's property?
Through your worship, no, the work would be, we'd be undertaking would be on the road allowance.
Okay.
Would be looking,
Okay. Were there any other hands that was?
Just a
Mr.
quick
Mayor?
question, if I may, your worship. To Rob. When Elk Street is reconstructed, it'll be a straight stretch, nice and smooth. Will that automatically mean that traffic is going to flow at a greater rate? Will we need the traffic calming devices?
Yeah.
There is a potential when you rebuild the road, through your worship, that you'll see a speed increase. It's short-lived. There are certain traffic rules that you kind of look at when you establish a speed on a roadway. You're looking for the 80th percentile. It's kind of like 80% of the people follow that speed limit. If you deviate outside of that 85th percentile, let's say you take it and put it artificially low, it actually makes the problem worse because everybody then gets to judge this. They know it's wrong, and everybody gets to judge the speed that they want to travel at. So you're fined at 30 over, somebody's fined at 10 over, and you actually get a worse speed differential. The traffic studies we've got out there now suggest that our posted speed is actually right. We're getting an 80% compliance rate. There's always gonna be people that drive that road at 110 kilometers an hour or whatever super speed they decide. The sign is not gonna stop them, it's gonna be enforcement. So we have worked with the Elmer Police on our recent projects to do targeted enforcement, working with the residents when we rebuild a street to get the message back out there. But that ultimately might be a question that the consultant answers better than I. He'll know the speed on that street and what the function is on that street. Every street has a different role in the in the road network. Like a 400 series highway, you wouldn't expect to see bicycle lanes. Everybody just, the role of that road network is to move traffic. It's not access to property. On a cul-de-sac, moving cars and access to property are kind of equal. We have Elk Street, which is kind of a feeder. If you look at the subdivisions on both sides of it, it does function as an arterial road. So we want the safe, efficient movement of traffic. And you've got the school there too, so it's kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
Will the answers to that be in the final consultant's report then?
I hope they give you enough to answer any of the questions and we pick the preferred solution. Yeah.
But we have a long time before Elk Street's going to be a reality, so you're going to get a lot more comments, I'm sure. So I think one more question, and that's it, Councillor Outlash.
Back to the trees. I'm a tree hugger. How many trees do you project to be removed?
Through you, Councillor Auchlack, I don't have the exact number. I know that trees were identified only, I believe, Mr. Connick, only when there was a service lateral conflict. I don't think there was trees being removed to accommodate any new sidewalk. Actually, if you look on the south side of Elk Street, you can see evidence where a former sidewalk was. If you walk that whole stretch, there's the section to the east where there's no sidewalk, but there's a few remnants of paths. And there is a running line there that doesn't get in the way of the hydro poles or the trees. And of course, that policy that if we have to remove a tree in the town, two are required to be.
That's right, yeah,
planted.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Will
thank
that
you,
be in
Rob.
the final report?
Thank you. Note that the motion says that the project update be received for information, so. Call the question then. All those in favor of the motion? And that is approved. Thank you. 9.2, Operations Coordinator Report. We have a motion.
That report Operations 223, entitled Program Update Bulk Waste Collection 2022, be received for information.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Rahi, seconded by Councillor Chapman. All right. Who's doing the report on this one?
Yeah, that would, sorry. That's myself, Christian, the Operations Coordinator, and I do have a brief overview of the report. So thank you, Mayor Cookit, and through you to members of council. For returning members of council, you'll find this report similar in format to the 2021 update. And for those of you unfamiliar, I'll briefly explain the details and answer any questions you may have. So the bulk collection program runs usually the first or second week in October. We advertise the program through our social media channels, the local paper, and our annual waste calendar. Miller Waste is our collection company, and we work closely with them on this program. We have our own staff follow the collection crews, answer questions from the public, and hand out notices for non-compliance. Within the waste calendar, social media posts and paper ads are guidelines for what's acceptable during this program and what isn't for taking to the curb. We don't accept construction materials, electronics, tires, et cetera. And we do our best to leave behind anything that might be easily recycled or reused. The program's cost can be broken down into two categories: total tonnage disposal, which can be considered a variable cost, as you can see in the chart there. That usually represents around 20 to 25% of the total program's cost. The second category would be collection, which would represent a more fixed cost, and collection can be as high as 80% of the total program's cost. The reason collection can be described as a more fixed cost is because regardless of what's at the curb in terms of weight, the collection truck and its crew still has to complete each route and make each stop. As you could see in Figure 1 in the report, collection crews can spend up to 10 minutes at a stop, collecting small items, which leads to longer days, more hours, and ultimately higher costs. This year, our tonnage was down almost 20% from last year. However, collection costs continued to rise at the usual rate. Staff are aware that residents appreciate this program and understand it's a valuable amenity to living in Elmer. Staff will continue to look for ways to improve the program within its current parameters unless given direction by council to explore more substantial changes. But if anyone had any questions about the report or the program itself, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Questions? Councillor Chapman?
Through you, your worship, it's not so much a question as a statement. It is a costly endeavor. However, when I read the report, it talks about having people take these items to the landfill. There's many people who do not have access to a vehicle that would hold a mattress or other items that are available to be collected. So for the elderly and those that don't have access, to take the program away could cause other problems. And so I'm very much support the program. I know that it's an expensive service, but it's a needed service. So that's all I have to say.
Councillor Valle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Coming from a bit of an ag background, I think if we ever got rid of the program, you would just see more of the country filling up with garbage. So I support the cost that it does, take to run the program. I think it just, if you got rid of it, it would just push it, onto the streets. And I don't think we need any more of that. So I definitely support the cost that it does take to put it on.
Anyone else? All right. Say the motion, again, indicates that this update be received for information. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor? That is carried, thank you. 9.3, have a motion?
That report operations 323, titled DWQMS Infrastructure Review, be received for information.
Mover and the seconder. Moved by Councillor Van Roy, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barber. I believe Connor is making the report.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Pleased to present the town's annual infrastructure review report. This annual review satisfies element 14 of the DWQMS policy. The purpose of the review ensures that conversations are being had between system operator experts and the decision makers of the town. It ensures unique operational perspectives are heard and can help to influence broader infrastructure decisions. And I'm happy to answer any questions pertaining to the report.
Questions, comments? Councillor Chapman.
Through you, Your Worship. I was at the Safe Drinking Water class yesterday, and so I don't know exactly what to ask, but I know that it's such an important item, and so when I read the report and it talks about the SCADA and learning about the chlorination and the responsibilities of council to ensure that we have safe drinking water, I would like to see, I guess this report might not be the exact one that I'm looking for, but to see the reports that come along with the water, is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Through your worship to Councillor. We'll be bringing a report to council for you to be re-endorsing our DWQMS policy. So that policy is unique to our water system, and it outlines what we do for every single of the 21 elements of QMS.
Okay,
And, yeah, at that time, we'll bring a report, and you'll be able to see the 21 elements. You'll see our operational plan and a report accompanying, giving you an explanation.
perfect, thank you.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for the new councillors' understanding, our drinking water is drawn from Lake Erie, and the plant is on Dexter Road. It's operated under the Elgin Area Primary Water System. Okay? The Elgin Area Primary Water System distributes the water to a number of local boards. Half of the City of London is supplied through the plant at Elgin Area Water, roughly. But anyway, Elgin Area Water distributes the water to the Elmer Secondary Water Board, which then distributes the water to the Elmer, the town of Elmer. So it's a multi-layer distribution system, and each of those components has to adhere to the requirements of the Clean Water Act to ensure that the water provided is suitable for its intended purpose. As Councillor Chapman mentioned, the more that you understand how the system works, the more comfortable you as councillors will be, because we're ultimately responsible to ensure that the system works. Hence the Walkerton water crisis of many years ago. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, and I believe the fines for doing the wrong thing can amount to many thousands of dollars per day, so we need to stay on top of this. I would strongly recommend, if you haven't done so already, and I don't know if anyone has done so before, take a tour of the Dexter plant.
They can't do that anymore,
Can't
unfortunately.
do that anymore?
No. Because of security.
Security. Because I did take a tour a few years back, and it was really very educational to see what kind of, process the whole water system went through. Anyway, Councillor Chapman.
Actually, we were talking yesterday, and there is a tour planned, but only a select group of people can go.
Okay.
And a select group being,
People that are responsible for the safe drinking water. So Andrew was mentioning that counselors would be included in that.
great, that's great. Perfect. Councillor Oslach.
Even if, your worship, even if you get off council, 10 years from now, you're still liable for the town of Elmer if anything goes wrong.
What was that again? Say that again.
If you get off council, and 10 years from now, if you're, anything goes wrong with water in Elmer, you're still liable.
Thank you for that, Councillor Oslach. We have a motion on the table. Any other discussion? Very, very well. All those in favor? As carried, thank you. Item 9.5, Director of Emergency, 9.4, I think, I want to miss that, is that, we have a motion.
That report Fire 123, entitled Elmer Fire Department Operational Update, Fire Paging and Two-Way Radio Communication System Study by KVA Communications, be received for information.
We have the fire chief reporting.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The report in front of you tonight is basically a summary of the reliability and longevity of our fire radio system that I wanted to bring forward to council. It's never been looked at, and as fire chiefs, we thought it was time to get it examined. I've done this with other municipalities, and it kind of gives us a roadmap, if you will, and an expected expense. The report was attached to it, but I'd like to take council's attention to the one part, of course, that identifies the needs to build up a reserve and create a complete system replacement fund. Like most electronics, there is an expected shelf life of the system, and our third party has approximated that in the 5 years. We're hoping to stretch that out a little bit. And his suggestion is for all the member municipalities in Elgin that share the radio system is to start budgeting approximately $30,000 per year towards the complete replacement of the system that he's estimating close to $1 million. So that's the bad news that I have for you. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? No questions? All right, I need a mover and a seconder for the motion. Moved by Councillor Desrosiers, seconded by Councillor Van Raes. Seeing no other questions, all those in favor? Is carried, thank you. 9.5, Director of Emergency Services, we have a motion.
That report Fire 223, entitled RFP for Elmer Fire Department Dispatching Update, be received for information.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Van Raes, seconded by Councillor Rahi. Okay. Chief McCone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, this ties directly into our original KVA report on the communication. This is the last time bit of the puzzle that goes with the study is our dispatching services. As you read in the report, it has never been looked at since 2007, and it was time to have that assessed. We chose to go with a two-part RFP for the process. The first stage requested a company overview, qualifications, and methods of which they would dispatch the Elmer Fire Department. The Elmer Fire Department received 3 submissions, which 1 qualified to move forward to the second component. As a result of that process, the fire department chose its option under 4.2 of the right to reject, cancel, or not open, and the fire department chose to cancel the request for proposal at this time. Again, if there's any questions from council, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you, Your Worship.
Questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Chief McComb. Where do we go from here?
Through Your Worship to Counselor, we stay with who we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is carried. 9.6. Director of Emergency Services. Yeah.
That report Fire 323 entitled Elmer Fire Department Operational Update Training be received for information.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Rahi, seconded by Councillor Chapman. Chief McComb.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Again, this is information for council on the ongoing training and aspects of that at the fire station. If we can just scroll up. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have that one in front of me. It identifies to council the areas that the fire department concentrates on, which is set by our policy by council for services we provide. Therefore, we train towards those goals throughout the year. And a big part of that training that the fire department has approached community members. And IGPC has been a great support of the Elmer Fire Department, and they should be recognized for their support. Again, they sponsored us for training at their facility at the Lambton College. So we spent a Saturday there learning firefighting techniques for ethanol and tanker firefighting. We invited our neighbors in Malahide to join us because they are our mutual aid partners. And again, a good portion of that bill was picked up from IGPC. And again, I can't thank them enough for being a huge supporter of the Elmer Fire Department. Again, if there's any questions for this report, Your Worship, I'd be happy to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions? Councillor Von Reis?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, looking at the training and the types of training, and what we have currently here in Elmer, I'm assuming all live fire exercises have to be done off-site at a different, separate location?
Excellent question, through you, Your Worship. We actually are taking advantage of the Ontario Fire Marshal's live burn trailer that's available to Ontario fire departments. We're in the application process of that at this time. As you are aware, there's a certain level of live fire training that we must do, and yes, we do take that off-site, but we are hoping for this year to have the OFM set up at one of our works departments, coordinating with Rob, and have that unit. It's a portable unit, size of a transport truck. We would have it for approximately a week. And again, we would share our training with our member municipalities from the other Elgin fire services. Great question.
And that would give enough time to complete the required live fire training for each volunteer firefighter for the year?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, good question, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? Oh, do you have a question?
Sorry, again,
Supplementary?
through you, Mr. Mayor. Is there an additional cost associated with that, or is that something that is covered?
The cost for us would be our normal training activity nights that we would hold on a Thursday. So we would take those normal 2-3 hours that we would have on a Thursday and combine that with a couple other training nights and actually turn that into a full Saturday. And we allow for additional training within the budget, especially, Counselor, when it comes to specialized firefighting. as you can appreciate, live fire is special, ethanol training is special, so we do budget for a little bit extra training dollars.
But there's no additional cost for the trail, is that something that's covered, bringing the trailer
There
here?
is a cost involved in the trailer, but it's very, very small. It's cheaper for me to do that route than to send our crews to another burn tower at Guelph or at another facility.
All right,
So it'll be beneficial for us to have.
okay,
Absolutely.
Perfect, thank you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the motion? It's carried, thank you. 9.7, have a motion for that?
That report, Clerk 123, entitled Committee and Board Appointments Bylaw Amendment, be received for information, and that council considers giving 3 readings to the bylaw 123 to amend the appointment bylaw as outlined in the report.
Mover and seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Barber, seconded by Councillor Chapman. Very well. Josh, you have a report?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, and 2 members of council. So following the initial appointments at the inaugural meeting of council, Mayor Cookitz had an opportunity to consult with council regarding the balance of the vacant appointment positions. The purpose of this report is really to provide an overview of the appointment recommendations contained within the bylaw 123. So I'll just summarize those briefly. So the revised bylaw and the amendment includes the appointment of Councillor DesRosiers and Councillor Van Rays to the Business Improvement Area, the appointment of Councillor Rahe to the Cemetery Board, the appointment of Councillor DesRosiers to the Healthy Communities Active Elgin Partnership, the appointment of Councillor Rahe to the Elgin Area Primary Water Board as the specific Town of Elmer internal alternate, the appointment of Councillor Chapman to the Elmer Area Secondary Water Board as the official town alternate, the appointment of a representative for the Land Division Committee, which will be finalized and reported out of closed session at the time of reading this bylaw, the appointment of Councillor Chapman to the Terrace Lodge Redevelopment Fundraising Committee, and finally, the addition of a Schedule S for the Elmer Malahide Museum and Archives, with Councillor Oslich being appointed as the town's liaison. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, have a mover and a seconder.
We've got one.
Councillor DesRosiers and seconded by Councillor Van Rays. Questions, comments? Very well, all those in favor? Yes, carried. 9.8, I believe, request for snowmobile trail access. In motion, Joss.
That report, Clerk 623, entitled Request for Snowmobile Trail Access on Town-Owned Lands, be received for information, and that council provides direction to staff.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor DesRosiers, seconded by Councillor Rahe.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and 2 members of council, staff are in receipt of a request from the Poplar Ridge Riders Snowmobile Club to access town lands at the north end of the IGPC ethanol plant, ending near the field area north of No Frills and A&W. The requesters included a draft memorandum of understanding and $15 million blanket insurance policy. So staff have been advised informally by the Riders Snowmobile Club that the request has been accommodated in the past. In reviewing the records, the most recent endorsement we were able to locate of the memorandum of understanding was a bylaw that applied to the 2005 and 2006 snowmobile season. So upon receiving the request, I've got to be honest, this is not something that's overly common to receive as an almost entirely urban municipality, but we did circulate emergency services, and no major concerns were identified at that time. We also circulated the town's insurer, who provided a generic response highlighting basic risk management guidelines for review and consideration. So for example, clear signage identifying the trailhead area. So with that said, if council's in favor of approving the request, staff would provide this information directly to the requester. That's the list of all of the requirements that our insurer is requesting. And in terms of facilitating the request, if council's in favor of accommodating this, if we think it's going to snow this winter, we would ultimately bring back the memorandum of understanding with a bylaw at the next meeting of council, just to formalize it. So again, just to reiterate, a little bit of an unconventional past. We've ran it by emergency services, ran it by the insurer. There's no major concerns, but ultimately we do require council's support to accommodate this request if we want to move forward. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Comments? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. The request appears to be reasonable. Anything we can do to encourage any group of people to come into the boundaries of the town of Elmer would certainly be encouraged.
So you're hoping for snow, too?
No, sir. Not at all.
Councilor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Your Worship. More so just a comment. I think, obviously, we are an urban area, but we have rural ties and rural heritage, so I'm absolutely in favor of this.
Anyone else? All right.
So just to clarify, through your worship, so with our, within the resolution, it specifies that council provides direction to staff. So I guess with the mover, the permission of the mover and the seconder being Councilor Desrosiers and Councilor Rahe, that direction then for the motion on the table would be to proceed with accommodating the request and to bring forth the bylaw at a future meeting.
Yes.
Thank you, and made the same understanding. Councilor Oslash.
Your Worship, this is a field between No Frills and our woodlot. And I determined in the past, snowmobile trails going through the field between our woodlot and the No Frills.
To Councilor Oslich and through you, Mr. Mayor, Owen has the imagery that the requester had provided. So you'll see in that image, I'm just going to zoom in on my end so I can explain it better. In the, so the image is properly oriented, so it's pointing north. You'll see the drawn-in trailhead. That's sort of right at the A&W No Frills area, and then you see the field head straight east, and then head sort of southeast across the IGPC land. So that's the proposed trail. We understand that's a trail that we've had historically as well.
Okay. Very well then. The vote would imply that we wish to move ahead with this kind of thing, all right? So all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Nine point nine, the Earth Committee appointment. Motion, please, Josh.
That report, CAO 123, entitled Earth Board Appointment Process, be received for information, and that council appoint blank to sit upon the interview committee for applicants to the Earth Board.
All right, you've heard the motion, mover and a seconder. Councilor Oslash moved and seconded by Councilor Van Raes. And so, Gail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Randy.
So this report is to initiate the recruitment process for a seat on the Earth Board. We're suggesting an advertised recruitment process for the role. If council's agreeable to this, we would want at least one council member to sit on the interview process. However, we certainly could take more. Chris White, the CEO of Earth Power, has also indicated that he'd be willing to sit and assist in this process. Just to give you some background, overall, the town's shares in Earth represent unquestionably our best investment. Earth's business is very diversified and it's ever expanding. So whoever is finally selected for the role will need to provide routine updates and come back to council to provide direction on where they're going. And council will still have to represent a member to go and vote at the annual AGM. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
I have a few comments before I get your comments. Traditionally, the mayor has taken the position of being the representative on the Earth Board. I did not want to do this the last time that I was mayor as well. I should point out that council members are free to make the application to sit on there as well, because I did not want to point out any particular councilor for this particular position. So if you wish to be on the Earth Board, do make an application. Applications, of course, would be anonymous, so that would be kept private. And I would wish, however, to be the council member that's on the interview committee, right? So any questions or comments beyond that? Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is there any specific qualifications that a council member would require for such position?
Yeah, I think that would be in the advertisement, right? We probably advertise, and there is a list of very specific kind of qualifications that Earth would like.
Okay.
So it'll be part of that advertisement. Anything else? Okay, the approval vote would be the approval vote would include, I put myself forward to sit on the interview committee, so the approval vote would state that I would be the person on the interview committee. So it would read, we can reread the motion again.
So this is moved by Councillor Oslich, seconded by Councillor Van Rays, that report CAO 123 entitled Earth Board Appointment Process be received for information, and that council appoints Mayor Jack Cookit to sit upon the interview committee for applications to the Earth Board.
So now you've heard the motion. Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. So I think the next item is closed session, is it not?
New business.
So just new business.
Great. Am I missing something here? Oh. I guess I'm missing a whole lot. Thank you. Item 10, new business and matters of urgency. None? Are there any inquiries by members? None. Statements and committee reports. I don't think we have any committee meetings yet. Report of the mayor. Just a brief report. Yesterday, I attended county council, which began at 9 o'clock in the morning and ended at 4:45 in the afternoon. It was a rather long meeting. The meeting dealt with a number of significant topics. One of the main ones was the budget presentations by the departments, and so that took a very long time. The current percentage that the county is looking at for the increase is 3.6%. We still have to kind of look at that in the next meetings of county council. I'd like to point out that I was appointed to 3 committees for county council, one being the Terrace Lodge Committee, second one being Southwest Public Health Unit, and the third one being the Health Recruit Partnership. So I look forward to serving on all 3 of those committees. All right. Are there any notice of motion? No. Now we have a meeting closed to the public. We have statements to make.
That council moves into a meeting close to the public at 7:49 PM to discuss the following matters. I'll read off the titles and then the exemption. So the first title is Report Clerk 223 respecting the Land Division Committee appointment, and that item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And we've got, apologies, that was item 15.1. We've got item 15.2, which is Report Clerk 423 respecting a property update on 105 White Street. And that item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. We've got item 15.3. That is Report Clerk 523 respecting a property update on Leslie Street. That item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the. We've got item 15.4, and that's report CAO 323. It's an AIM Park update. That item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. Got item 15.5, and that is report CAO 423, respecting an unsolicited property proposal. That item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And finally, we've got item 15.6, respecting report CAO 223, governance review update. And that item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239-2, B, D, F, and K of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, to labor relations or employee negotiations, advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and finally, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board.
Thank you for that. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Desrosiers, seconded by Councilor Chapman. All those in favor? As carried. Thank you very much. We'll have a brief recess to move into closed session. Okay. All right, so council is now moving out of closed session with this motion.
That council rise from the meeting close to the public at 9:18 PM and reports the following: that report clerk 223 entitled Confidential Land Division Committee Appointment be received for information, and that council recommends Bill Unger as the Town of Elmer appointment to the County of Elgin Land Division Committee, and further that council considers approving bylaw 123 to confirm that appointment in the public report out of the meeting close to the public. That report clerk 423 entitled Confidential Update on 105 White Street, Elmer, be received for information. That report clerk 523 entitled Confidential Leslie Ave Property Update be received for information. That report CAO 423 entitled AIM Industrial Park Update be received for information. And that council gave direction to staff regarding the AIM Industrial Park lands. And that report CAO 523 entitled Unsolicited Property Proposal be received for information. And finally, that report CAO 223 entitled Governance Review Update be received for information.
Very good. Thank you. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councilor Desrosiers, seconded by Councilor Chapman. Any further discussion on these motions? Can't do that. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Right. Okay. Next, we move to 16.3.2, I think, right? Go ahead.
So this is the bylaw section that council gives 3 readings to and approves the bylaw 123, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3822, being a bylaw to make the necessary council and citizen appointments to committees and boards. Bylaw 223, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Elmer and GM Blue Plan Engineering Limited for engineering consulting services. And further, bylaw 323, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at the regular council meeting held on December 7th, 2022.
Okay, very well. We need a mover and a seconder for this. Moved by Deputy Mayor Barber, seconded by Councilor Van Raes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried, thank you. And now, the one you've been waiting for is a motion to adjourn. Have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councilor Chapman, seconded by Councilor Oslach. All those in favor? And is carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Very good discussions.